Start the podcast whenever you want, mate.
All right. Don't need to do the 3, 2, 1 clap thing.
No, you don't. Just do it.
3, 2, 1 clap. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Clayton.
And my name is James.
And it's a good thing we've got two supporting fans of two teams that absolutely obliterated the opposition on the weekend, right, James?
So the highlight of the Tottenham fans' weekend was finding out that we weren't going to finish fourth in a really weird about way.
The highlight of Arsenal's weekend was I got a kebab, and it was rubbish. But yeah, it was a pivotal weekend in both the title race, the race for Europe, even some movement in the relegation battle. It's it feels like quite a big landslide shifting weekend, and obviously lots of drama around leaks. FPL Towers, not FPL Towers, Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, let's talk about that first briefly. So there was obviously the usual pre-deadline, Man City, tick for this player, Haaland's playing, Lewis is playing, Foden's playing, rare. But obviously Phil Foden didn't. And also very interestingly, yesterday, I don't know if the FPL crowd are aware of this, but it was the Liverpool team was going around yesterday morning, and that was wrong as well. And they weren't fantasy relevant ones. It was like Szoboszlai's in the team, and he wasn't in the team, stuff like that. So I don't know if City and Liverpool have realised what's been going on for a while here and have just flushed it out, is probably what's happened. In terms of the leaks itself, many people will have obviously taken advantage of these leaks during the course of the season. You can't be angry when it goes wrong. And we've been here in the past, over the years, where there's been, I think particularly with Liverpool, was quite a famous one actually. And then suddenly it stopped because obviously they was giving various different people various teams, and that's how they found out what was changed one player in the team. That's how they caught whoever it was. So I don't know if that's what's happened again, but it could be that will stop the leaks, which will make a lot of people happy. My case on it's always going to be, I'm certainly not going to slam these people offering information I'm going to use, right?
Yeah.
So this time it's not worked out. That's how it is. I think the one point I'd really like to make is all this screaming about moving deadlines to the first kickoff changes absolutely nothing. So what difference would it have made having what was the deadline on Saturday, 11 a.m. was 11, it? Yeah. What difference would the deadline being at 11 a.m. or 12:30 have made for the 3 p.m. Man City kickoff? Absolutely none. Yeah. Wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference. And nobody's got the right solution for this that makes everyone happy. You know what I'd do with this, personally? I'd have deadline every Friday at about 6 p.m.
Really?
Every week. And if there's midweek fixtures, have it at like 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. Okay. That's it.
And what's your thinking?
And if there's a Friday night game and people get the information, fine. Or make it 8 p.m. on a Friday. You couldn't do 8 p.m. on a Tuesday because it'd probably be games kick off earlier than that. But yeah, just do it. Same time deadline every single week. Crack on. Sometimes you'll get an advantage. Sometimes you won't. But majority of the time you probably won't. And that's the closest you'll get to having solved the problem. But you're not going to do that, right? Because I want people to log in overnight on a Friday night, Saturday morning, all that kind of stuff. So there isn't actually a solution that will benefit everybody. But the moving it to first kickoff, there's a big crowd screaming for that all the time. That's not going to change anything. 11 to 12:30 for the 3 p.m. game. You just probably got more chance of more stuff coming out for the 3 p.m. games closer to deadlines. It doesn't actually fix anything going to the first kickoff. And under this format of game, you're not going to get all these rolling deadlines like you've got in this FPL challenge at the moment and stuff like that. The game is a simplified game for the majority to play, and it will stay simplified. I'm fairly certain of that.
Yep, agree. And did the leaks affect you at all? How'd you get on this game?
Yeah, I kept Foden. I mean, in seriousness, it didn't literally made no difference to me because I probably would have bought Luis Diaz.
Oh, okay.
And instead, I bought Rico Lewis. So I had Muniz come off the bench instead, having bought Diaz because Muniz came on instead of Foden. So I actually made no difference to me whatsoever. And I've obviously got Foden's value that there's every chance I'll hold for my own wild card in game week 35.
So how'd you get on?
Yeah, I mean, about as well as my football team did on Tyneside Saturday lunchtime, to be honest. The winner of the Grand National was a horse called I Am Maximus.
Okay, I didn't even see the Grand National.
No, did I? I was on a train heading back from Newcastle an hour earlier than planned because, I turned to my dad at 4-0 and went, let's get the fuck out of here.
What was that?
Oh, well, it's literally when Cher scored. I was like, come on, let's get out of here. There's no point. We could catch this train an hour earlier, and actually we caught it with plenty of time. So I was home early enough that I've nearly got the kick-off of Bournemouth Man United. Well, nearly the kick-off of second half, but I'd avoided the score, so I managed to watch it all back, whereas I shouldn't have been back till after it had finished. The meaning of Maximus is greatest or largest, and none of those apply to this weekend of FPL for me, which I got the captaincy right, I guess. Captain Erling Haaland rather than Mo Salah. Haaland bombed through for a one-on-one chance 54 seconds in, and I think everyone thought, yep, that's the right decision. He's ended up with possibly the flukiest and most fortunate assist of the season, because the volley, when it comes back to him, is, well, it's going the opposite direction of Old Trafford, but nowhere near the goal, actually. And then, obviously, he's got a penalty. So if you look at the underlying numbers, what he's returned, you could have been expecting some more, but then there's a little bit of a fortuitous nature about the way he's actually got his returns. Mo's obviously missed some good chances yesterday, as did Liverpool as a whole. We'll obviously get onto that. But Haaland's captaincy for 20, Martin Dubravka's going to come off the bench for me for 6 points. Nice. No, it wasn't. I would have preferred like a 0-pointer, actually. That's my only returnees. Areola.
Of course.
I'd stuck him in on the chance that he might be available. That seemed to be a logical call. Switcher would probably disagree with that. And Newcastle have now suddenly kept 2 clean sheets in a row, and I suppose I should be grateful I've got 15 points from Dubravka over that, which just shows the irony with goalkeepers in this game, because I wanted to sell him before the start of the last game. I was like, that's the player I want to get rid of most. Didn't. He's returned me 15 points over the 2 weeks. Funny old game. You looked at my team going into the weekend, you're like, oh, this looks decent now. So we've got Haaland captain, Foden we think's playing. Obviously, that turns out to be a 0-pointer. Rico Lewis in. And to be honest, I was quite happy to take the chance on that, even if there hadn't been confirmation. So that was the intended plan. Once it obviously got the tick 15 minutes before kickoff, I couldn't foresee any circumstance where he wasn't going to start, actually. Okay. So got him in. City did their customary, and can't be surprised about it because it happens most games. 3-0 up. Literally took Haaland and De Bruyne off and conceded 1 minute later. Have you seen Guardiola's face on the bench after they concede? No. He's so vexed. He's properly vexed. Matthias Nunes loses possession. Ross Barkley scores a really good goal. Only one Arsenal going into the weekend. You'd probably be quite fearful about that. Gabriel 0-pointer. Only one Liverpool going into the weekend. That's Mo Salah. You'd be quite fearful of that. 2 points. I bought Bumo for Sheffield United at home. 3 points. Did get an assist. Disallowed by VAR. Still, Ivan Toney was 3 points worse off. No show at all. I was sitting about in the train. I was like, get him on for the 1-pointer because I knew what I was getting. It was probably going to be Pedro Porro's 0-pointer, right? Okay. So I got Porro 0 points off the bench. Muniz 2 points off the bench. Heung-min Son was shocking and didn't even make it to 60 minutes. You can't even look at my team and go, it's bad. Yeah. The first response I got was, when I put it on our Slack, once I made the decision to go put it on Slack before I put it on Twitter, the first response was like, there's no way you won't have a green arrow this week with this team. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm definitely getting a red arrow this week. Now. Absolutely certain. So I've dropped a bit. I think I've dropped down to, it looks worse on FPL at the moment, but I've obviously got Dubravka's 6 and Muniz 2 to come off the bench. So I've dropped to about
Chelsea Everton tonight?
230k. Cole Palmer's irrelevant, so I've got tonight. Okay. So Malo Gusto, it's his time to save the game week. Or he could not turn up and I'll get Pau Torres' 6 off the bench. Didn't see that one coming. Gusto could save my game week, and it wouldn't be the first time on a Monday night this week. I had Phil Foden's hat-trick at Brentford, Jared Bowen's hat-trick against Brentford. Unfortunately, Malo Gusto is not playing Brentford tonight, although Brentford always win at Stamford Bridge, so I shouldn't be that grateful of it. So, yeah, this is going to be red for me, and I mean, pretty much, even with free hit this week, wild card in 35, because I don't have the bench boost as well, I think me hitting top 100k is probably gone from here. I'm looking to just...
Where are you?
About 230k.
Never know.
I think for me, I'm probably just looking to try and finish this with a 1 at the start. Would be the plan for me. What about you, mate?
My wild card has not been great. I'm on this game week, 41 points not out. Got same as you, Gusto and Palmer to go.
Just to clarify, you didn't wild card this week.
No, sorry, I wild carded in game week 30. But more to the point is, since my wild card, it's just been red arrows. And if I can go and have a look, I have not actually had a game week rank better than 1 million since game week 26, James. And in that time, I've been, I mean, the violin's out because I'm sat at 21k, so I'm chuffed with that. But yeah, 4.2 million game week rank at the minute, 41 points. My returnees were Vardio. Got bloody lucky there, yeah.
Nice.
Garnacho's dubious assist, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
No, we won't. It was irrelevant. Just laugh at Man United again, which I don't know how we do this week when they drew and we got done.
Yeah, I am not in a position to be laughing at anyone this week. I'm an Arsenal fan, by the way.
People love the pain, but we can't rip the piss out of others this week. So shit.
Who else returned for me? Solanke, and I had Haaland, but didn't captain him because I took him on, and I went Mo Salah.
Ugh.
And disaster. And I've got bloody Eze's 10-pointer sat on the bench as well. So not great, but I rolled, so I'm going into game week 30.
I bet there's a good crowd of people who bought Eze this week because they didn't know what to do and get him in ahead of 34 and have blatantly just left him on the bench. Is that you?
That's me.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Well, week before.
And it's very understandable.
Yeah, I actually rolled this week, so I'm going into game week 34 with 2 frees, trying to attack the double. My strategy is I've just got the free hit left, so I'm going to transfer my way through and free hit in game week 37. So that's me at the minute. Should we talk about
So you're going to free hit 37?
Free hit 37 for me, yeah.
Okay, so this is where it's interesting. You'll get this kind of diversification of strategy. So you're kind of almost going to be continuing to head on to sort of Liverpool, Arsenal and keep that.
Yep. And it's because, like, if you look at my team, I think I'm quite well set for 34 anyway.
Well, I can see Son hasn't got a fixture looking at your phone at the moment.
Yeah, but I've got Son to Saka planned. I've got a second free transfer as well. I'm probably going to take a hit this week, to be honest. I've not sat down and looked at my actual moves, but I remember when I was sat on Pete's site, shout out FPL.team, I was looking at this week where it's like, I think I can get by quite nicely with how my team is bust. Take a few hits, maybe move on Gusto, Son, to a defender who I've not thought of yet, and Saka.
Can you get by in game at 35 though?
Yeah, I can't remember what I've got planned for that, but I remember when I looked at Pete's site, it was like, yeah, it's not the greatest week, but it'll be fine.
So there's obviously the Tottenham Chelsea doubles in 35, but the biggest one for me, which was obviously reaffirmed from what I watched on Saturday lunchtime, but was always likely to be the case for me, is treble Newcastle will be a certainty for me in game week 35. And I think the big winners this week were the people who had Isak's or Gordon's. Those are the people who seem to have done best this week, and they probably knew that at lunchtime as well, because the differential enough. Yeah. I mean, Isak is going to be so popular going into 35 as long as he's fit. His form is ridiculous at the moment. He's in with a shot of winning the Golden Boot, and I want to say he's only started about 20 or 21 games or so.
A little period, didn't he?
He's a brilliant footballer. Gordon's returns at home, very well documented. Another big haul at the weekend. You got a nice return for Fabian Schär, will be in a few teams who perhaps have gone, which Newcastle defender? And you've gone, yep, that's the most reliable one, if you could afford it. So that treble up, I think, scored more than my team this week. So shit happens. But yeah, and that's the probable three I'll probably end up going with on my own wild card in 35. How do you reflect on yours now?
My wild card?
Yeah,
I regret it.
Because it was kind of impulsive, I think, when you did it.
Impulsive, yeah. So my plan all along, especially after watching like your chip content, listening to the main pods and stuff.
Don't be fucking blaming me here, boy.
No.
I never told you to do.
That was the worst plug ever.
I never told you to do that.
Okay.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I told you not to do that.
Yeah, James told me not to. But the information was very useful. But I was always on the plan of like wildcard 35, bench boost. I can't even remember what the plan was, but it was definitely wildcard 35. And I don't know what happened. It was the evening before the game week 30 deadline. And I was just looking at it and I was thinking, I just want to be aggressive because at the time, I think I was like 20, 25K. And I've never really been to this height before. So I thought, let me just try aggressively go for 10K. And it was about I was going to say a very dodgy innuendo there, but it wasn't aggressive. It was I am Maximus. No, it's gone backwards. So yeah, I do regret it, to be honest, because my team was well set up. I think, I just got a bit impulsive, really. So yeah, lessons learned.
Bench boost left?
No, sorry, yeah, that's what I'm doing. What did I say earlier? I said free hit, didn't I?
You said free hit 37.
I meant bench boost 37. Sorry, I free hit in 29.
What's your rank again?
Yeah, I know, 22K. Arsenal has taken it out of me.
Just like having Another Suj. Just with more tactical.
I'm so sorry. I meant bench.
This is why you're perfect, mate.
I know. I live up to Suj's name. Bench boost 37. I free hitted in 29, which I also regret that, to be honest. It's I feel like my chip strategy let me down.
So you're thinking I'm going to free hit this week for clarity, as I said, on Wildcard 35. So you've mentioned about a possible hit. So what's kind of top of agenda for you?
I think
under what your strategy?
Yeah, so Saka for me is the thing right now, and I'm even looking at, can I do a hokey cokey like Son to Saka back to Son?
Yeah, there's every chance I wouldn't go back, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm sure
I'll talk about
in a second. And then, obviously I need to start working towards getting some Newcastle in. I've got Darwin sat there, so I'm thinking maybe after the double, move him on to...
Darwin owners are proper vexing at the moment. I've seen a few going, I'm going to sell him to Isak this week, even though Isak's got the single and Darwin's got the
No, I'm not doing that this week. But
double.
The other person I've got there who I'm looking to move on is Bradley, right? So Trent's obviously back now. Bradley, I think, went off with a knock. So, I just need to have a sit down and look. But there's 3 people there that I look as sellable in Son, Bradley, Darwin after the double. And then I have got people like Gusto there as well that I can move on if I need to.
Yeah, but you're going to want that for 35 probably, aren't you?
True.
You're not going to sell Cole Palmer this week.
No, God no. But yeah, so it's Son, Bradley, and then Darwin in that order. I'm probably looking to...
You sell Darwin this week?
No. I said not this week.
You're just talking about taking a hit this week, so you got 1 free, I presume.
I've got 2 frees.
Yeah, I've got 2 frees.
Yeah, so for this week, it's probably going to be Son
to Saka.
Son to Saka, definitely. And then,
the problem there is how you get to another Liverpool one, isn't it?
I know.
If you're moving Bradley on.
Yeah, to be honest, right now, I don't know. I definitively know I'll be doing Son to Saka, dependent on fitness after the Champions League and everything. But second one, I'm not sure. Open to suggestions.
Here's what I can say about my free hit, and I don't know the personnel at the moment because I haven't looked. The only thing I've looked at the moment is if I put the most expensive team together, could I afford it? So I haven't even activated the free hit chip yet. I can't see the worth in doing it, actually, until later in the week. It will be treble Liverpool, it will be treble Arsenal, it will be treble Crystal Palace, it will probably be Dominic Solanke, and it will probably be one more.
Fair play.
And that decision isn't going to get made till after Liverpool play on Thursday night because that's a huge impact. I mean, for example, take you on your strategy. I'd look at that and go, you ain't getting a Trent.
No, I know.
As an example. Yeah. So that is one, in my position, I'm going to go, yep.
Yeah, that's your differential
can get there. But I kind of want him to have another 45 minutes or so on Thursday night, and then you hope you get the 2 games in the double, and I want to chance that. By the way, you shouldn't just look for differentials on the free hit because I think a key thing here is still, and I've seen 1 or 2 people go, not sure I want to captain Salah now and stuff. And I'm like, unless there's serious reason for me to really think that he's not getting sort of at least 120 minutes, he's still getting the armband. Same. And on a different day, he didn't play well yesterday, but on a different day, he still would have got the returns. So it'd still be like Salah captaincy for me. Saka would still be next best, despite obviously not returning yesterday either. That's the way I intend to go. So there'll be part template, and I want to take a few opportunities. I think like Trent is a good case to say that's a potential opportunity that others aren't going to be able to get to.
Yep.
Let's look at that sort of thing. Because there aren't too many variances elsewhere. I mean, one person I can definitely say, to be honest, after Salah Saka, the next absolute definite for me is Ebe Eze. Mm-hmm. I don't know which other 2 Palace are going with him, but he's definitely going to be one. That's going to be quite a high EO, popular, I think, this week. And those running through, I wouldn't necessarily prioritise getting an Arsenal or a Liverpool player over getting Eze, actually. With the 2 home fixtures, he's got a decent fixture 35, and with each passing week, the fixture against Manchester United in game week 36 doesn't look bad either. So it's one you can hold for a little bit on the other side as well.
Makes sense. Should we talk through the games?
Shall, but first,
go for it. What are you pulling out there?
I didn't say I'd do this, but I'm going to do this anyway.
What is this?
One of our, you can open it up, Clayton.
It's our first unboxing.
This is, I'm plugging it, not because this is not paid ad or anything like that. One of our patrons, James Rogers, sent this for my missus and Suji's missus. Company's called Indulgent Hampers. You can share the website for us, Clates, because I'll read it out wrong because I haven't written it down.
It is www.indulgenthampersuk.com.
Good stuff. What's in there? Show us some of the nice stuff that's in there.
I got a nice little eye mask.
Oh, I thought that was a thong.
It can also... Nice little art.
Do you remember
nice.
the
Got some Lindor chocolate? Classy.
Who was it with Robbie Williams? Something Stupid. Nicole Kidman. That's what that made me think of when I saw that.
Your mind out the gutter. It's 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. Got some cute socks here.
Socks. Got nice. Lindor chocolate.
Is
that a Bicky?
Yeah, it looks like a nice biscuit in there.
We've got Prosecco gummies.
That sounds nice. Yeah. Got some tea bags.
Tea bags. What else is in it?
Some soap.
What's ceramide firming
one of these
Lapcos?
I got a hand mask. I've never seen a hand
mask.
Oh,
a hand mask.
Face
What's
mask?
this one? You might know because I'm not up to date with these things. Because you're younger.
What's this?
And you understand.
I don't know, Jeff. It looks like a mask. Yeah, this is cool. I think my mum would love stuff like this.
Anyway, shout out to James and his other half. And yes, of course, I mean, that's obviously not a Nicole Kidman thong, just for clarity. But if you want to treat your other half or your mum or anything like that, shout out to James and the company. Very kind of you to send us those gifts. If anybody else wants to send me and Suj shit, or even Clayton or Nico, I'll happily plug it as well. Because if I'm getting free stuff, I don't mind doing that. I will sell my soul for anything, although I did sell my soul for Tottenham quite some time ago. Go on then, Clayton. What game are we covering first this week?
We are starting in Newcastle. Newcastle 4, Tottenham 0. What happened?
Well, how long have you got? Because I think I could quite comfortably probably fill the next hour and a half on this. I'm very conscious
of... You're doing a Patreon pod just about Tottenham, isn't it?
Yes, Harry Daniels joining. You all know Harry, FPL Harry, is joining me on our Patreon podcast today. Tottenham Chelsea. We're going to release that prior to Chelsea's game with Everton tonight. Oh, wow, bad day at the office. But interesting in the sense of, I think when you go somewhere like that, and I must shout out the atmosphere. I did that on Twitter on Saturday as well. And people went, it's obvious the atmosphere is going to be good when they're winning 4-0. No, listen, I went to Fulham and they won 3-0. It was like a graveyard. No.
12:30s are usually quiet as
12:30 kickoff, yeah. And also pre-game and at 0-0, comfortably the best atmosphere I've experienced away from home.
I went there as well.
This year. Very good. Credit to the Toon Army who were in attendance. But with that in mind, part of the battle with them is calm them down, because they're a lively bunch, and the team plays with an energy that the fans can get behind as well. Whether they're going at it full throttle in terms of attacking, or if they're going to be quite disciplined and obviously use counter-attacks to their strength as they did on Saturday. You only have to look at the possession numbers to kind of know what the pattern of the game was. Newcastle had 27% possession, but deserved the sort of scoreline that they ended up with. And actually, we kind of did it. Like, I would say, if I reflect on the period before the first goal, I would have said Newcastle have been the better side here, and maybe they could have scored, but there isn't a lot in it. Like, we've got a lot of the ball, they're breaking and looking quite dangerous, but we kind of just hit the point in the game where it's like, okay, we've got a bit of control now, and then just a couple of mad moments happen. And if you look at the goals individually from our perspective, they are an absolute disaster. Yeah. So firstly, Mickey van der Ven has finally been made to look a mug by Isak, and that can happen because you're playing against a great centre forward. And the problem that happens with Mickey on the first and the second goal is he comes across too quick. On the first one, he slips, right, and it looks bad. And there's this brilliant picture knocking about where he kind of ends up looking like he's doing a breakdance on his head while Isak's scoring. I'm quite relieved he didn't get injured from that. Then for the Gordon one, he comes across too quick and ends up on his bum again. And then I think that's in his head, because on the third one, he just doesn't get to Isak, and normally he should get there. He's had a bad day at the office. He's obviously been very good for us this season, and he'll learn from that. And that's not Isak's great. Van der Ven's now absolutely useless. No, not at all. It was a bad day. But compounded by those goals. So the first one, Udogie actually wins a challenge on Gordon. Although it's not many players involved, we got 3 back and they've got 2 forward. Once Gordon breaks beyond Isak, past Udogie, it's still 2v2. And Romero steps out and he shouldn't. And then Van der Ven comes across and he comes too fast and ends up on his arse. Bad. Then you've got Porro, who's probably pound for pound been our best player of the season, has an absolute moment of madness, literally seconds after they score. And suddenly you've gone for a position of, okay, maybe got a chance of quieting them here, getting control, you've blinked and you're 2-0 down, and at that point you're in trouble. And then the third goal really early in the second half, because I think you still have things psychologically and you go, well, we've been a really good second half team. If we get 2-1, and because they don't have the ability to make 5 changes of, let's say, similar quality at the moment, if you can even just stay in the game 2-1 going into the final period, you're still in with a real chance. The third goal happens really early in the second half. It's beautiful ball from Guimaraes. And obviously really clever from Isak in terms of the way he stays on side in his own half. And then when he gets in, he's not the sort of player like you think's going to miss when he gets there as well. Really good forward. And the fourth goal is from a set play. And that's really important. The key thing when Tottenham play Arsenal in 2 weeks in game week 35 will be your corners.
Yeah.
How we defend them is pathetic. But if we do defend them properly, that's our best chance of scoring against you in the same moments.
Sure.
How we defend corners and how quickly we break on you. Yeah. So that's the key thing in the whole game, I think, is Arsenal's corners in that fixture. And a lot of us are going to end up benching Arsenal players, I think, in game week 35. Do not be surprised if Gabriel or Saliba walk out of that with 15 pointers and stuff.
Bloody hope so.
I bloody don't hope so. Also, interestingly, in fact, I carry on with Newcastle. Isak, as I said, is going to be massively popular going into game week 35. He's a certainty for me on Wildcard as long as he's fit. Gordon, I think, will be in there as well. It's worth saying, we've spoken about it a lot this season. A lot of the returns have come in home games rather than away games. I think the key thing to note from some of the recent games is him playing on the right isn't necessarily diminishing his prospect of returns. So that's fine. Because I think you could see, right, Barnes on the left, he's not going to come in and shoot in the same way. He can still be a threat from out on the right. That's not a problem. So I still think Gordon over Barnes. Okay. Defensively, unless there's some good news on trips, it'll be Share or Burns subject to budget, but I think I'll be able to afford Share, and as seen at the weekend, it's just a little bit more offensive threat in that. Tino Livramento obviously back off the bench late in the game as well, but I think that would possibly only be of interest to me if I'm really if I was confident that Trips wasn't going to be back. Okay. It could well be that the first choice becomes Trips right back, Livramento left back, because they probably won't do again what they did at the weekend, which tactically was really, really good. Brilliant management from Eddie Howe. So they pressed us, and this is important, in a way that I don't think anybody else will or necessarily can. So their wide players pressed our centre-backs. Okay. So Barnes played off the left, Gordon played off the right, and their responsibility when we were playing out like from goal kicks in deep phases was the two centre-backs. So Barnes to Romero and Gordon into Van der Ven.
Why do you think they did that?
So we couldn't get out. So what they did behind that was Isak was responsible to stop the passing lane into Bissouma. Mm-hmm. When he got himself into a position that he had stopped that passing line, it was let him go and press the goalkeeper. Now, goalkeeper can't go short because the two wide players come into the centre-backs. You go, whoa, hang on, so the inverted full-backs must be absolutely free. No, so Jacob Murphy basically played right back, but in essence didn't really have a position. He just man-marked two doggy. On the other side, you go, would have moved, so did they do that with the left back? No. What they did instead was Elliot Anderson was the wide left-sided midfielder, went into Porro. And then that left them, obviously, with Guimaraes and Longstaff to go in one-to-one duels with Maddison and Bentancur, respectively. They basically went man-to-man all over the pitch, which included having duels like Burn against Johnson. And Tottenham never took advantage of that particular duel.
Werner had a chance, didn't he, where Johnson was like set free on the wing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's in the opening period where it was 0-0 and we were a part of the game, right? Yeah. It wasn't a huge amount in it. But that was as good as an opening we ever had. The reason we never took advantage of it was we couldn't get high enough to be able to get Johnson into space as we did in that moment really early in the game. And actually that came from Bentancur getting a bit of a lucky ricochet and then breaking through a challenge and then just sending him away. So we broke through lines quite quickly. Now, you can't just set up that whole way against Tottenham, because if players drop deep, then you are going to leave space. So when we got into their half, they funneled into a 5-4-1, which basically had Elliot Anderson playing left back. Okay. And the two wide players who'd obviously gone into the two centre-backs, they go, right, you're not a problem anymore. Funnel back round, line of four in front of a line of five. And then it's different approach. Then you're saying to Tottenham, right, play through us. Good luck with that. And because it's a back five, and you've still got kind of man-to-man in those phases of the five, the two centre-backs could go and be aggressive in between. So when Tottenham were trying to feed it into Maddison, the two wide centre-backs could go and be aggressive in that area. And Newcastle have some kind of unheralded players like Kraft, Jacob Murphy and stuff, like did their jobs really well. Anderson is a young boy. He put in a really, really intelligent tactical performance during that game.
It's interesting, Newcastle going with unique tactical approaches, because I remember last year they kind of set the template for how to stop Arsenal with like mid-blocks and stuff. Do you think there could be a case of this with stopping Tottenham?
Well, I'm thinking of the games coming up, and I'm thinking you won't do that against us.
Why not?
Who would do it? Who would end up in that scenario then? Who's going to go and end up in the left back position off the ball?
Yeah,
and go and press Porro.
Rice, maybe. No, I think they'd have him higher.
Well, yeah, and take Rice out of the middle and put him into the left back position when you go into deep phases. No, it's probably Havertz.
True.
Like if you were going to do that, and you and I have sat here together and watched Havertz play left back for Germany, I don't think we'll see that again. So I don't think Chelsea might have a formula to do it, possibly. I don't know if they'll want to. Liverpool aren't going to do that sort of thing. City aren't going to do that sort of thing. So that's why there is a counterpart to it to say Newcastle tactically got it spot on. And if you get it tactically spot on against my team, you will beat us. Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't matter actually if you're Manchester City, Newcastle or Sheffield United. If you get it tactically spot on, you'll probably beat us because it is a certainty, as I always say, everybody will create chances against my team. For my team, with people thinking about 35 in mind, first point is Porro obviously went off injured very early in the second half. We've got no prognosis on that as yet. Obviously, if he's out, Emerson Royal will play in his place. That is a downgrade. Although Emerson, as I've said to you several times, actually in big games, defensively, is quite reliable. And I wouldn't mind too much if he ended up playing some of these more difficult games. But losing Porro's creativity is quite bad, particularly when James Maddison is just not at it. He is not at it at all at the moment. Since he come back from the injury, he looks slow. That's the best word I could use to describe him. He looks slow with everything he's doing. And I think he went into a phase on Saturday when we were chasing the game of trying. There's no lack of effort or will, almost like trying too hard. He'd gone from one extreme to the other. Like, I'm going to start taking this on by myself. He's really not playing well.
Think he'll come out of the
really not playing well. I would have no problem if he didn't play against you, particularly. Other games, yes. The problem is when you take it out, you obviously want to free that quick front three quickly. He's still the most likely to play that pass.
You need someone like him then in that final third.
Yeah, but honestly, if we'd rocked up in a couple of weeks and he wasn't in the team and he went with Bentancur and Sarr with real legs either side because of the opponent, I actually wouldn't have a huge problem with that. I'm really, really confident Ange won't do that, by the way. I personally wouldn't have a problem with it. I also wouldn't have a huge problem if Richarlison played instead of Son either.
Wow. Yeah, what? Any advice?
Richarlison would be, again, he won't do that. But if Richarlison can be fit for these really difficult games we've got coming up, Richarlison should play. And I also think Son is useless out wide.
What's the advice for Son owners then?
Useless is harsh, by the way. But just not the player that he was. Are you not doing anything? And this is the thing with Sonny. Like, it almost looks not worth not having him in game week 35. Okay. Because of what it can be. Yeah. The thing is with him as well is, space will be there more in some of these games. Might not be against Arsenal specifically, but in some of these others, the way Chelsea defend, the way Liverpool defend, he's got a great historic record against Manchester City. Even Burnley will come and play us in game week 37. The fixtures are actually there to say, yeah, don't be an idiot, don't go against Heung-min Son, but I could take it or leave it at the moment. I said this on this podcast last Monday that I didn't think he was an absolute essential or must-have for game week 35. Probably mad to go without against, and I probably won't, but I wouldn't be surprised, exactly what I said last week, if Johnson outscores him from now till the end of the season. And I also said about Johnson getting built up to be like a 90-minute man now. He takes Son off, he puts Johnson through the middle. And I've also said this to you in the past, that I think longer term he might end up as a centre forward.
Yeah, you did.
Brennan Johnson. I want Johnson more than Son in game at 35.
Okay.
I don't know if I want both. I don't know if I'm brave enough not to put Son in now. There's also the emotive of it from my own personal that if Son kills me in FPL, I'll still be quite happy. But yeah, I don't know what you're truly expecting from Tottenham players in 35. Like if someone said to me, is it okay to go without Tottenham players in game week 35, bearing in mind it's Liverpool away in 36 as well? Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah. It's the Chelsea's defensive stuff being bad that makes you still think, oh, don't want to.
You know, like,
and obviously, you've had some vulnerabilities yesterday as well. Yeah. And on Wednesday night against Bayern. So, look, the best three now, if for whatever reason you were wildcarding now and you wanted three Tottenham specifically for 35 and beyond, as it stands at this moment without the Porro injury news, it's Udogie, Johnson and Son.
Okay.
I think those with Maddison who are running through should sell him this week and strongly consider going back for Johnson. And you'll find yourself with more money in the bank as well. Really, really bad day. On Son as well, we've obviously also spoken about, particularly on our Patreon pods, about his indecisiveness. This is on Son. Watch back the first and the third goals. This is exactly what I'm talking about with him. He gets himself tied in knots. If he's got more than one option, he does himself over. And ultimately, we concede those 2 goals. There's obviously other stuff that happens. But originally, because he loses the ball, it's part way got taken off. It was toilet, mate. It was toilet. Really good win for Newcastle. You would expect them to finish above Manchester United from here. And if anyone was going to catch my team, it's them. They've got brilliant fixtures from now to the end. 3 Newcastle for me in 35 is definite.
Fair play. Moving on, Brentford 2, Sheffield United 0.
The headline.
No Tony.
Yeah, that's the big headline. And I think a few people, I've obviously owned him for a little while, well, going back for 29. I'm sure I'm not the only one in that position. And all the signs were that the benching at Villa last week was a complete one-off. Yep. Thomas Frank had said, look, it was 3 games in a week. He's carrying a bit of a problem. I want him right for these final games.
And then he's benched him again.
And didn't even come on. Yeah. Now, that choice might have been that he's not feeling right and they've deemed that they've got the game won. Why use him?
Possibly.
There is that possibility. Or there's a possibility that there's something deeper at play here and he's 1 year left on his contract and most people know that there's going to be a parting of the ways between the two in the summer. Yeah. He's into definite sell category if you're under that situation where you've got at the moment, and it would be understandable that people do. Yeah, you couldn't guarantee that it will come back in against Luton. The only caveat to that is Luton obviously really good at set plays and stuff, as is Tony, even defensively on top of offensively. So it wouldn't be a surprise if he comes back in, but you also, at the moment, you wouldn't necessarily expect it. And I think the biggest shock as well was exactly what we'd predicted. They'll go to a back 4 to allow Visser and Bumo and Tony all to play, but no, Maupay played.
Yep.
And in fairness to Maupay, when he actually came out the team, when Visser came back from AFCON, Maupay was a bit unlucky to lose his place, actually.
He was doing okay, wasn't he?
They also did what we didn't think they'd do defensively, playing Region and Roslev as the fullbacks. Not sure that they'll do that at Luton at the weekend. I think they've deemed that they could... Yeah, and they've deemed that they could get away with it. Me and Tom Med had a good chat about this on COTC last week, that the two of them are not good enough defensively to play fullback in a back 4, basically. They've looked at Sheffield United and gone, okay,
get away with it. Yeah.
What have they got on the flanks? Okay, it's going to be Jayden Bogle on one side, and it's ended up being LaRouche on the other side because Robinson didn't make it. Their players, it's more their forward players moving to the wide areas. Yep. But Burnley doesn't really have the mobility. Ben Brereton Diaz can do that. So I think they've deemed they could take the risk. Yeah, and he's had a great chance in this game at 0-0 as well. Arguably should have scored. And they've got Burnley at home, and then they've got Manchester United next midweek. Yeah. And on them 2 fixtures, you'd make a case.
Chances.
I mean, from an offensive perspective, let me put it this way. If any other team had that double game week this week, we definitely have an attacking player from them.
Yeah.
I think even if it was Everton, you'd be asking real questions going, well, will Calvert-Lewin play twice?
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe I could go McNeil for these sort of games. Could Decore be a good punt in midfield? If that was the double, you'd be asking these real serious questions, because there's absolutely no doubt that across those 2 fixtures, there will be chances, even for Sheffield United. If someone wants to go Brereton Diaz, particularly on the free hit crowd, okay, don't mind. He'll be borderline for me. I don't think he'll make it. Personally, it's still them.
There's been a few.
They're still
games.
The poorest team in the league.
Just looking at their last 5, they obviously scored 2 against Bournemouth, 3 against Fulham, scored against Liverpool, 2 against Chelsea, and they did have a couple of chances on the weekend as well. So I can see why people are thinking about it.
Yeah, I also think Brentford have had vulnerabilities defensively, and other than that, Diaz chance wasn't a huge number for them in the game. Diaz is the only one for Sheffield United that would be under consideration for me. I think for Brentford, it's just to bear in mind that some players will be useful for you if you're out of chips. So I don't think you're buying new, but if you've been carrying through this period with a Region or a Bumo and you're without chips, the right solution at the moment might be to hold on to it. Okay. Like if you've gone in for Bumo, I wouldn't be desperate to get rid of that. I think if you've got Tony, it's probably got to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you're going to get to 35 and still have Tony and not buy Isak if you haven't got. I mean, it's similar price. You're going to end up making that sort of move. So they've got good fixtures. I would class them as safe now.
Yeah,
as well. Brentford.
It's clear now.
Ethan Pinnock's back fit. I would imagine he'll probably come back into the team at the weekend as well. Yeah, Brereton Diaz is the only Sheffield United one to look at. No one needs the money. Free hitters don't need the money this week. We'd go, well, we'll trust you play twice at 3.9. Like if you want to sit that stuff on your bench, fine, but you probably don't even need to.
No. Nicely done. Moving it on. Burnley 1, Brighton 1. Burnley obviously went 1-0 up. I think it was about 15 minutes ago.
For a comical goal.
Yeah.
And then Brighton equalised from the most comical goal of the FPL season. I feel right sorry for Muric, actually, because his clearance gets blocked by Calvert-Lewin last week. And then this has happened to him as well. And for all of us who were going, well, maybe Trafford needs a break of a team from the team. Well, there's every chance Trafford will come back into the team now, won't it? Yeah. Because you probably got this fella under a bit of jitters, and you can imagine actually that Sheffield United would target that under that circumstance at the weekend. What they should have done was start the season with Muric and let Trafford get himself in the kind of feet in the door, and then naturally let him kind of overtake to become the number one once he'd sat through it. Whereas this stuff's now, you've now got probably the two keepers probably got little confidence in themselves as it stands. And you know, goalkeepers are generally quite confident. I might have that wrong, but Trafford's been taken out. It's just like, what's your confidence in him? Now Muric has had a couple of terrible errors. What's your confidence in him? That is a disaster, isn't it? I know there's a lot in modern football of standing on the ball and using your studs to control. Yeah, maybe goalkeepers maybe shouldn't do that. Especially if the ball's heading back and it's potentially on target. Maybe don't take that chance. It's terrible, isn't it? They're finished now, Burnley. I mean, we'd said that they needed to win at Everton, really. So they're finished. You're not going to look at them from fantasy at all. Brighton will get a little bit of interest. Might be a little bit of a takeaway here is I predicted the 11 correct. That's only the second time this season.
Job,
I know that's only the second time. Those who watch my streams will know this. That's only the second time this season that's happened, and that was the second best moment of my weekend, other than the sofa score notification that came around about 10 past 6 yesterday. Actually, it was the KFC I ate by myself while I was not drowning my sorrows because I wasn't pissed on Saturday night. Mind you had a sober kebab, didn't you?
I did,
yeah, it's been that kind of weekend, folks. There is potentially some lessons to learn in that might be Brighton's strongest team at this moment. So you've got Welbeck up front, João Pedro to the left, Dingo to the right. Moda is getting lots of minutes as the 10. Balaba and Gross is kind of by default at the moment. Billy Gilmore, we think, might be back in a couple of weeks, certainly before the game at 37 double. And then you've obviously got Veltman's come in because Lamptey, bless him, can't stay fit for more than a weekend. Duncan Van Heck as the centre-backs. Estupinan left-back, but obviously he's gone off injured really early in the game. And Verbruggen has now played a succession of games that I think when we get to 35, a few people are going to be going, is he staying in? Is he staying in?
I can't do it to myself.
I think he might, actually.
He'll stay there.
But I wouldn't advise it, particularly because of recent results, they might find themselves adrift of European qualification by the time Game Week 37 comes round. So I wouldn't bank on it at all. So if you want the reliability for 37, if you're thinking for wildcard 35, Duncan Van Heck, you're gonna get plenty from. Dunk might be worth paying the extra over Van Heck, but he's cheap. Van Heck almost feels like an ideal one for the bench boost for 37. Gross will be reasonable, but there are so many other good midfield assets, even for the 37 double, that he might get overlooked. Welbeck and João Pedro will get a little bit of attention. You know what Welbeck's issue is? Same thing, staying fit. João Pedro will definitely get attention. I think he'll get attention from people as well, and might have landed in a situation. Here's an example: someone who's still got Colton Morris.
Is there many?
I found this out ahead of last week as well. A lot of people on my deadline stream saying, what should I do with Morris now? And I think, you've held through Tottenham and Arsenal away. You're still there. Was Bournemouth this week? Play.
All right, fair play.
But I guess those people beginning to be thinking, what are they doing? They might have a chain plan movement in mind. So it might be something like to Cunha this week and then into João Pedro. Something like that. I think João Pedro will form a solution for certain people under that circumstance, and he could well be third forward for people in 35. Because I think forwards for the 37 doublers, Isak a definite. Haaland's not inspiring much confidence. Do you want to go to Werner?
Not keen, personally.
Haaland presumably takes another one. But if you want the third, you might start thinking João Pedro. And someone like that is potentially going to allow the keeping of a Salah or a Saka if you want to do that sort of thing. Or Sané, of course, which many of you obviously are going to have anyway. So, yeah, there's a few to keep an eye on there from Brighton. My instinct at the moment is that I probably won't have any on my wild card, though. But remember, I've used my bench boost, so it's a little bit
different for you.
Different. I think Pedro would probably be the one that needs monitoring most. And just an interesting thing, I know you're probably feeling flat about the title race this morning, but Roberto De Zerbi has a 12-day period to prepare for Manchester City. Yeah. He will fancy his chance of trying to do something. I agree. Unfortunately, I just think that they're nowhere near their capability at the moment. This is probably the lowest I've felt about them, I think, since De Zerbi took over. They just feel a bit flat at the moment. Yeah. And you would expect City, in all seriousness, to go down and win. But bear that in mind, De Zerbi might come up with something unique for that fixture next Thursday.
Cool. Yeah, speaking of City, Man City 5, Luton 1. And it was only 1-0 for a large chunk of the game, to be fair.
Although God knows how.
Yeah.
Credit to Luton because so many injuries. At least Reece Burke played, although, as I said, when Haaland ran past him 50 seconds in, was probably thinking, I wish I hadn't bothered. They cross over. Doughty played left-sided centre-back, and him and Burke cross over. When centre-backs cross over,
it makes
you're
me
in
so
massive
nervous.
Trouble.
Yeah.
By the way, look at Leon Bailey's goal yesterday.
I know. Yeah.
There's a desperation for Saliba to get back across Gabriel, and I think that's what creates the hesitancy on that goal, is that they end up on the wrong side of each other.
One of those things.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a breakdown of a corner, so that can definitely happen more. That on the halfway line, 40 seconds in, should not happen. Yeah. Where Doughty's at left-sided centre-back and Haaland's run across him, and you can see him thinking, I ain't doing that, or I can't do that, or so Burke has to run across Doughty. Oh dear, yeah, it was a little bit of a mess. Credit to them for staying in the game for as long as they did. Yes, they were very undermanned at the weekend. As I said, Ross Barkley took his goal really well. This was never an important game for Luton. They've got fixtures coming up that are very, very winnable, particularly at home. And as I said a few weeks ago, that's going to define whether they stay up or not. And I suppose probably the biggest thing for them this weekend probably was that Nottingham Forest didn't win. They would have known it was highly unlikely to get anything at City. And you can see after the game, despite losing 5-1, the reaction of the fans still very much with the players after the game and stuff. So, yeah, it's about future things for them. I mean, if you've got Luton assets, you're generally selling. But, again, if you've got a Morris or a Doughty and are really short for this week, like Brentford at home is winnable. They're not terrible single game week players to have. I just think naturally you're probably going to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
For City, we can expect further rotation, particularly if they win on Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. So, schedule for City, obviously it's Wednesday Real Madrid, and then it's Saturday Chelsea in the FA Cup semi. 5-day gap to Brighton next week, which obviously could become a 4-day gap because it could move to Wednesday. Either way, they're going to play Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and then their first leg of the Champions League semi-final. If they go through 3 days apart, all three, there will be rotation in there, and it'll probably most likely be in the Nottingham Forest game in game week 35, to bear that in mind. It's not a City player I could look at now and tell you that's a certainty to play in that week, and that includes Haaland, by the way.
Agreed.
Genuinely. But again, he'll be another one to be very difficult to go without, because you see the capability, as said at the top, like he could have got more at the weekend, but then there's also a fortuitous nature about his returns that could have meant he blanked in the same way that Salah did. But he's still going to be popular enough. The thing is, you can take him on in 35 because most of us will captain Palmer with the double, I imagine. Please captain Palmer rather than Son if you're debating that, by the way. So Haaland could be taken on, but I think for 37, if they're still going for the title or need points, you're going to want that.
Yeah.
And also, he's probably thinking, I've got to win the Golden Boot. So I'd bear that in mind as well. He's not going to want anyone else to have that.
About that, 100%.
Yeah, I think that might be a difference. If City did win the league early, that might be a difference between last season and this season. Him not being assured of that and wanting it might be knocking on the door. I also think, having watched the Champions League final and the FA Cup final, with him as well, I think he needs run of pattern.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing.
It might even be better that he keeps playing. But it's certainly one to be aware of for 37. Because if City did have the League One, which no one's saying is going to happen, but then that is so conflicting for 37. Yeah. They're a nightmare now for 37. I would probably be keen, for those who are looking to bench boost in 37, try and leave City till the end to get your decision right. People are going to default into Ederson.
Yeah.
And I understand.
And even that will take a one.
Well, if they've got the League One, then Ortega probably does, doesn't he? But it's, which one's the safest? And I get it. I get it, because it is going to be tough and rough with them. He said defensively at the moment, Guardiola, that he can't rotate defensively. Their subs bench tells me, though, that that's now coming. So Walker was an unused sub. Nathan Ake was on the bench as well, wasn't he?
Correct, yep.
So they're back.
Bench. Rodri, Bernardo, Grealish, Foden.
Kyle Walker, you will assume, will play against Real Madrid on Wednesday.
Yeah. Think so?
I think they'll rotate quite a bit in the FA Cup semi-final for preparation for that run that starts with the Brighton game next midweek. Would you, if you were free hitting this week, would you consider going with Haaland?
I think I would,
Against Brighton.
Yeah.
It's not a huge number of forwards for the double this week.
No.
It hugely appeal.
Jokes aside, I still think I would roll the dice on Darwin this week.
It would be, as long as you didn't go for like your Trents and stuff, you can do it.
Yeah, but look, I don't even know who the top forwards would be this week. I feel like
Solanke and Matthias Cunha would be really popular.
Yeah, I genuinely would have Darwin.
Darwin Núñez, obviously. I say obviously. Ask an owner and they'll tell you something different.
Possibly not then. I don't know. It's a tough one. Like, are you really going to go for a Cunha over Haaland?
Well, Cunha has 2 games. They're both at home, but one's against Arsenal. Haaland, there will be potential opportunity against Brighton.
It's the sort of thing against Brighton. Like, you can see Brighton potentially winning, but if they don't, you can see City putting 3 or 4 past them. Personally, anyway.
Yes. My instances would go double, though.
Same.
I actually think this applies just as well for Ollie Watkins, by the way, at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah,
as an alternative as well.
I'm a nerd
and
for
that's also easier to fit in.
I'm very much like, I've got this thing. I just love playing the doublers. Sometimes to my own detriment. So I probably would avoid it. But
you've got Haaland.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be free hitting, right?
Yeah, you're going to definitely keep though, aren't you?
Yeah, of course I am. Yeah.
Yeah, and I realise you're not wildcarding on the other side.
No.
I don't think that's a priority transfer out for people this week. That would more be my point. Like, if you're sitting there now and you've got Haaland, I think Solanke would be the one just because of his consistency this year. But if you've just got, I don't know, say Solanke, Haaland, and you're going to go with a front 2 this week, like, I don't think that's terrible. I wouldn't panic to, I've got to get a doubler. You can, by all means. There might be bigger fish to fry, and it might just be at the right place just to leave him in. I think I would more likely, in seriousness, go Watkins over Haaland this week.
Yeah,
personally, I don't think I'll go with either.
No, that's a tough one. Yeah, well, that's
there is an element of you can with Haaland. On Foden, don't read too much into the benching. We documented that near the start. He, De Bruyne, Alvarez are going to share some minutes for the remainder of this season. So too are Doku, Grealish, Bob. And now that Ake and Walker are back fit, good luck guessing which defensive player plays the most. I would suggest Josko Vardio is going to need a rest soon. I know he's hauled, and that's great for owners this week. And it might be that rest, by the way, comes in the FA Cup semi-final, and that would be perfect for you.
In the title race, is now the dreaded Man City, top of the table. 6 games to go.
Why are you smiling about it? That's weird.
Got a check. It's like, defeatist smile. But this is the worst position to be chasing City in, really. Once they go ahead, it's yes, I'm going to strap myself in, see how it goes.
Yes, but you and Liverpool both play twice before they play again.
True.
That might not be the case for Liverpool, but it definitely is for you.
Yeah.
So you're 2 points behind?
Yeah, we're 2
so
points behind.
You want to put yourself in a position that City go to Brighton and they're 4 points behind with 2 games in hand, and it's pressure then. Still pressure.
Yeah.
Do you drop points between now and then?
Oh, I think if we drop points in one more game, it's done for us.
The thing is, they're so used to this and quite relaxed about it. You can see them winning all the games left. Yeah. I just hope, and I'm not pro Man City, I just hope that by the time they've played their game week 37 fixture against, who's the first part of their double? I've forgotten now.
I can't remember either, but
they finished with us. Who did they play before?
Fulham away.
Fulham away. I hope they win at Fulham and win the title that day.
Cheers.
Well, because I want to support my team against them on the Tuesday afterwards.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I've seen a lot of conflict
Clayton,
among Spurs fans.
If the league table looks as it looks now, which would, I guess, if you all won your games, City would come to our place, a point behind you? With an inferior goal difference, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be beating us, mate.
You guys going to throw in the towel then?
I think the majority of the home crowd would want City to win.
Interesting to see what the players.
I'm genuinely serious about that.
Yeah. Against modern football. Moving it on.
I don't want that scenario.
Coming up to the hour and we've not even got to the Sunday games yet. Not us. Back-to-back Desmonds. Nottingham Forest 2. Wolves 2. I sold Cunha a couple of weeks ago and he's got a bloody brace.
I mean, it was injured in fairness, so we can certainly forgive you for that. Oh, hang on. No, didn't you get him on Wildcard?
I got him on Wildcard.
When he wasn't fit? And then you sold him?
Well, when you say he wasn't fit,
melts.
No, that was Twitter rumours. So like, there was nothing concrete at the time.
Did he play?
No, he played the week before, yeah. But then
did he play when you wildcarded him in?
No, no, but there was nothing concrete at the time saying that he was out.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who did you sell him for?
Who did I sell him for?
Please say Darwin Núñez.
I think it was Darwin. Honestly, think it was Darwin.
He's been absolutely brilliant, Matthias Cunha, for them. And the first finish is extremely good, although the defending... watch Ryan Yates back, it's a little bit weird. The defending is particularly bad, but the finish is really good. He's obviously a confident player. He didn't play so much as the 9. You shouldn't be alarmed by that. I watched this game back actually on Saturday night because it was the game of the day. He played more as the right-sided forward and interchanged with Sarabia. They actually played João Gomez in a more advanced role as more the left-sided. They've now tried Lamina, Doyle and João Gomez all as one of these 10s, and obviously Aït-Nouri has played it as well, who missed out. Cunha from deeper isn't bad because he arrives really well and he's a good ball carrier. And Wolves are stronger for having his ball carrier in a deeper area, particularly with no Neto. Yeah. So don't be surprised. Hwang was in the squad. He came on, didn't he? Yep. He had an appeal for a penalty, which wasn't a penalty, sorry. So you would think Hwang will probably now start against yourselves and then Bournemouth. The spacing of their double is good. It's Saturday to Wednesday. They've got the game week 35 fixtures at home to Luton as well. So if you are running through, there's a good fixture afterwards as well. So if people want to invest in Cunha, I'd have no problem with that. Hwang is a little bit more dicey. Yeah. But all I would say is, if he starts against Arsenal, he's probably not going to play the whole game. You probably are looking at sort of 60 to 70 minutes. Nico absolutely bolted out of his chair. Didn't stun me at all. Have you just not been filming for the last hour, babe?
that completely
just bolted out of his chair. You're more, if you go Hwang, you're more worried about the Bournemouth game anyway.
Yeah.
Than the Arsenal game. So it's not that he can't return against Arsenal, of course he can. I imagine he'll go through the middle. And I imagine, in seriousness, if Ray Aït-Nouri gets himself fit, he'll play as the left-sided 10.
Yeah.
And that one really appeals. It's a really awkward one for free hitters, though, to go there. Because we know he was in the squad and we know he's not even made the bench. So what's his status?
Say that again. We know he was in the squad.
Gary O'Neill said he would travel with the squad.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
He was open about that, but didn't guarantee that he'd be in it. He said, look, he's going to travel with the squad. We'll have a look at him.
Oh, right. But yeah, obviously, like you say, he wasn't in the squad, right? So
correct.
That is a dilemma.
We do think he travelled. Those who own are obviously not doing anything about it unless there was some form of setback. You're going to run with it. And I guess he would appeal particularly for those buying through because, like I said, you got the Luton fixture in game week 35 as well. And they're two really bad ones, 36 and 38. You could probably bench. Do you want to use him in 37? debatable. We've got a home
Palace.
fixture at Palace. It's not a terrible one if you ended up using that in game week 30, particularly where he's playing. That's the thing. If we think he's going to play as one of the attacking players again, you still want it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because with him, you're not even looking at it from a clean sheet perspective then.
I think it's just a case of, like, you just have to keep an eye on Gary O'Neill's presser this week, to be honest. There's no point speculating right now.
Yeah, I think despite the fact that we'd obviously have Arsenal offensive in there, if O'Neill said, yeah, he's fine, he'll play, I'd have a chance we'll go with him. Just because of where he's at positionally, I'd see the upside of that rather than the fearing of what it might not be.
That's how I would look at it as well, yeah.
Cunha's going to be borderline for me. I think I'll almost definitely go Solanke, as I said, despite the fact it's not a great double for Bournemouth with 2 away games, but his consistency. I just think if the score, it's most likely to be him, or he's going to be in and around his, because his goal involvement's so high. And then it possibly is Cunha. Possibly.
Yeah, he's decent on price.
You know what the difference between him and Darwin is, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. With Cunha, I'm probably with Cunha. Well, no, what I mean by that is in terms of minutes. The return's fine, but with Cunha, I'm probably going to get close to 180, aren't I?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it appeals. Definitely 8 Norrie from a defence. I probably wouldn't look otherwise.
No, I wouldn't. Just 8 Norrie for me.
It's a little confusing as well at the moment. With obviously Dawson's been back fit, didn't come straight into the team. Kilman is a boring buy. If people wanted to punt Nico's cousin Nelson, I don't hate that. But if 8 Norrie's fit, you're going to go 8 Norrie. Hwang is not on radar for me. I just need to be more minutes, I think, and there's enough midfield alternatives. But again, you're looking at an OOP potentially. So I don't think people go treble Wolves though this week.
No.
Ultimately, he's still playing you this weekend. It's not great. For Forest,
just game this weekend.
Massive away to Everton. Just keep them in mind. As I've said previously, they played the bottom 2 in game weeks 36, 38. And for those looking at a free hit 37, you might even land into a position where a Williams, a Gibbs White, a Chris Wood might even enable you to go back to a Salah or a Saka or something like that in 36. Just keep them in mind. Gibbs White.
All laughed at me.
You deserved it. He's another one who seems to have done pretty well since you sold him.
Since he's departed my team,
he's
the best thing since sliced bread.
Someone's going to be bidding for Gibbs White in the summer, I think.
Seen Arsenal linked with him, actually.
My team will be interested as well.
We know where he'd go if he's got a toss up there.
Well, it depends how much of a tosser is on it, and you'll get an understanding of his choice. There'll be other teams, not just us two, interested in Gibbs White. They may unfortunately have to sell because of the PSR predicament. So, it's, to be honest, probably a disappointing result for Forest, particularly having got themselves in front. Be looking at these home games and what they've had. So they've, over the last 4, obviously lost at my place, but 4 points from Palace, Fulham, Wolves at home. Or 5 points, actually, sorry. It's probably a little disappointing. Mind you, you'd have wanted 2 points. At least you've gone unbeaten in it. 5 points across the 4. Listen, if they keep ticking with 5 points on the next 4 or so, they'll move towards safety, you would imagine. I still think they'll stay up.
Okay. Final one from the Saturday games, Bournemouth 2, Man United 2.
Yeah, it's neither you or I can rip the shit out of United too much. The defending on both Bournemouth goals is so bizarre. It's already been highlighted across most of the TV platforms, but positionally and structurally, that's not even a Premier League team, the way they defend those 2 goals. The second one, Kluivert's goal, there's so many faults. Yeah. There's about 6 players at fault. And it's just a simple pass into Kluivert. Dalot gets drawn too far up the field. Garnacho doesn't stop the passing line when he's literally just got to take 2 steps to his right and he stops the pass. Doesn't have to go and press. So, you're tired, you're getting back. Take 2 steps to your right, mate, and that pass can't be played. That's the biggest one of all. Maguire and Cambuala and Mino and Casemiro too far to the left-hand side. All need to be to the right-hand side.
I think this is a coaching thing. You've got that amount of issues.
I think it's getting to the stage where this happens too often for it not to be.
Yeah, because this is where I'm at with it. I think I look at how many shots they concede per game. So you've already said it structurally. There's basic things where I'm just of the mindset, how can that not be a coaching thing when it's happening that consistently?
But that He's basic stuff. He won't teach things like that. Don't stop a passing line. No, surely. Like,
I don't know, but I do think they, like, in modern football, you instruct players where to be based on different things that are happening in different areas, right?
But that, if you just pull, I can't remember who played the pass into Clivert, but if you just took a screen grab of that, it's unbelievable. Just to look at you, go, it can't be. I wouldn't expect from a League One team, League Two team. It's so easy.
It was Senesai, wasn't it?
And then
2 assists.
You're right. It was Marcus
troll.
Senesai. He assisted both, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he kind of tackled for
Yeah,
Solanke
I
as well.
forgot about that.
And Campoala was the second defender to go break dancing on his head this week. I mean, look, he's a young boy who's been thrown into it, so I definitely don't want to be too critical of him.
Not at all.
And he had some important roles, which, by the way, included, controversial opinion here, not a penalty at the end. Ryan Christie was outstanding in the match. Not a penalty for me. And also,
which one are you talking about?
The Bournemouth one that was given originally as a penalty was deemed to be outside. For me, it's correct decision. I've seen people saying, but he rugby tackled him into the box. Well,
but the
no,
contact was outside.
He caused obstruction, and then because of that, they've both fall in a certain direction. There's no continual pull. It's outside. Yeah, and on the Adam Smith one, I actually think it's penalty. I realise I'm in the minority on that one. I actually think it's penalty.
I can't make up my mind.
There's too much. There's too much. You can say, it's a deflection.
You see his reaction?
Yeah, he didn't appeal much instantly.
His head was straight down, head in hand.
Yeah.
I found that more telling.
Yeah. There's a deflection, but then there's still an outwards, like a woo.
I didn't quite
of
see
his
it
right arm. Yeah.
I
think it's penalty.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. I've not made up my mind on it. I can see why it was given, but also I understand why people.
And by the way, when Christie got blocked, particularly, I shouted penalty because I wanted the penalty for Bournemouth, like Sunday United. But no, I actually think those two decisions. I mean, I'm not worried about United.
Yeah,
I am a little bit conscious of Newcastle. No, but in seriousness, let's be real here, right?
They're 10 points behind you.
Yeah, but as the fixtures, I realised that. But before we play again, as the fixtures stand, and they might move, but they play Sheffield United and Burnley before we play again.
True. Fair point.
Now I realise that puts them 4 points behind, and we have 3 games in hand at that point. It's not like quite shit.
I can't take you
it's not like quite shit yourself, but those 3 games in hand would then be Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester City. So they would, but then afterwards, United have then got to play Arsenal and Newcastle, whereas we come into like Burnley and Sheffield United. Yeah. So no, I'm not that worried about Manchester United. Newcastle's away form makes me think they probably don't win every game left.
Would you consider any Man United assets? Because it's a nice run on paper, right?
I will tell you, honestly, truthfully, as I said, I was watching the game on the delay when I got back from Newcastle Saturday night, and I was particularly watching Haaland. Haaland was the one I really wanted to have an eye on because, as I said, look, there's more midfield, just naturally, there's more midfielders' choices than there are forwards, right? Kind of want to put your hat on Haaland for 35, right? Burnley at home, Palace away 36, then the double. Can I go and get him in? And he doesn't get the service. That's the big thing for me. I'm not looking at him going, you're missing chances, or like he's almost like the opposite of Nunes. But he's not. I keep thinking he's not getting the service, but I'm also not sitting there thinking Bruno Fernandes, don't give it to him. Yeah. But it's more from the wide areas, he's not really getting it. There's been a kind of big meme popping about the last week or so about like Marcus, any chance for a pass anytime kind of stuff.
Seen that.
So, but he's not really having the opportunities. Now, you could put Haaland in on wild card. He could score a hat-trick against Burnley in game week 35. But I was watching him and I think not convinced. Now, I kind of know I'm going to go with one of Onana or Dalot. That's pretty clear for me. Not because they're amazing defensively. We've laughed at it. But I am still going to go with one because of what I'm wildcarding into. And ultimately, it is still a double of 2 home games in 37, despite 2 difficult fixtures. I will use the player in 35 and 37. That would be my plan. So I still want to go with one of them.
When Onana cleans, he does rack up the bonus.
Well, there's that, yeah. But it might be easier to put something like Vicario in 35. I know I don't speak about him much, but there's a few options I've looked at for 35, and I think it defaults to him.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because he'll certainly have to make some saves.
Is it literally just that then?
Yeah. And then it's also, well, if Porro's out, am I now looking at a Dalot versus Udogie? And I think it's quite close on that sort of conversation. And so the goalkeeper's almost like the least relevant one of importance. The beauty with Onana and Vicario is, again, you know what you're getting. I think they might end up being the goalkeepers of choice for those with wildcard 2 bench boost. Because I know what we're going to get. Yeah. From all the others, you don't know what you're going to get. Dubravka might have Pope back. Steele could come in for Bruggen. Could Ortega come back in for Edison? And who's the other one I've forgotten? That's got a double. Petrovic and Sanchez.
Oh, okay.
So it's only Vicario and Onana you'd actually look like and be to be able to look from 35 to 37 and have genuine confidence. Yeah, they play no matter what. And I think people might fall into that.
Yeah, okay. Anything more to cover on them?
Well, the point I was going to say is on United was because I've been watching Haaland a lot, I'm sitting there, I'm going, I know he annoys the hell out of me, and this is just before the penalty as well. I think I'm going to go with Bruno Fernandes.
Just because of the penalty?
He's perfect for a double, isn't he? Yeah. He's just minutes all that jazz. Yeah. He's actually perfect for this time of the season.
Well,
and he's also, he's the one United player you could not question him on his... I've spoken in the past that I think sometimes he goes into business for himself with his pressing, but it's not because he doesn't care. Yeah. Just he's like, he takes an initiative on himself, and sometimes I think that's the wrong thing to do. At the moment, the rest are so wank that if he does it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And he is contributing at the top attacking end. And Garnacho's not as clear as... Because that's what I'm thinking as well. Haaland, Garnacho, plus one of Dallo and Nana. That's my United 3 for 35.
Do you think that was tactical with Garnacho? Have you seen all this social media stuff?
Yeah, so Garnacho has liked... I think he liked a tweet of...
Is that factually true? Like, I didn't actually go and check it myself.
He's liked a tweet of Flapjacks. FPL Flapjack. Hello, Rich. I think so, yeah. I'm sure that's what I saw, Flapjack, but I don't know if Flapjack's just memed that. It might not be real. But yeah, the two liking of Goldbridge's 2 tweets, which was defending Garnacho. Yeah, that's legit, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So once that sort of stuff starts going on, yeah, I think writing's on the wall for Ten Hag. For Bournemouth, obviously for this week, Neto is a reasonable one to consider from a goalkeeper perspective. I think Milos Kerkez, very interestingly...
He nearly scored, didn't he? Should have.
Yeah, not only that. So Sinistera come back and got injured, and we didn't know that Sinistera was going to be back available. You've obviously got other wide players. Tavernier was out injured. Semenyo missed this one. We don't quite know the prognosis on him yet. You could get Kerkez as a left-sided midfielder, a la Ait-Nouri a little bit. Not quite as extreme, but you could get that this week. So I think one to really keep an eye on the Bournemouth news going into this week. That said, at the same time, it's 2 away games. I don't think you'd have huge confidence in a clean sheet. It's obviously not as stable a pick as Senesi or Zabani will definitely be the 2 centre-backs. I thought they were both pretty good, them two. Ryan Christie's, I said, was excellent, but you wouldn't look at that from fantasy. I think if you were looking for a midfielder one, it's Kluivert. Okay. I think with the injuries they've got at the moment, he's returning pretty well. The last few times I've seen them, I think he's played really well. He's at a price that everybody can afford if they wanted to. It might even be one that you would, if you're running through, you go, okay, I'm going to buy him now this week. That's my 8th attacker. You might even want to play him over like a Palmer this week, possibly, with the fact Chelsea go to Arsenal and then go, right, he's sitting on the bench for the rest of the season under that sort of circumstance. So I think Kluivert, if I went with a Bournemouth midfielder, that's the one I'd go for this week under my circumstance. Okay. But Solanke, therefore, is almost a definite for me. The only problem I would say with him is he spent most of the game looking like he was in pain. Solanke. Okay. He's obviously still carrying this injury, and it seemed like every time the camera panned on him, he looked like he was flinching and he looked like he was in pain. But his performance didn't show that. So, and he's not been rotated this season. I think the gap of 4 days from Wolves to who did they play first? Villa. Oh no, it's 3 days, isn't it? Villa Sunday, Wolves Wednesday, but then they do have 4 days before Brighton in 35. You'd be surprised if he didn't play twice. Yeah, I agree. And actually, as good as Villa were defensively, the longer that game went on yesterday, Villa fans would tell you prior to yesterday, showing plenty of defensive vulnerabilities recently. I don't think it's not a terrible double for Solanke, despite the fact it's 2 away games. Yeah.
Nicely done. On to the not-so-super Sunday, from my perspective. Well, although it started out looking like it could be. Liverpool 0, Crystal Palace 1.
Do you know what the odds were on Palace and Villa both winning?
I couldn't even begin to guess that. What were they?
If you got less than 101, you're using the wrong bookie. Let me put it that way. It would have been more.
I reckon a couple of people had that as well.
I saw someone who had, I think the treble up I saw, if you included Wraith Rovers, who beat Rangers.
Okay, right.
It was staggering. It was in the thousands to one.
Wow. And someone had that. Said you saw it.
Maybe I am Maximus did. No, no one else did. I saw someone had it and they cashed out after Ross County won the first game, which is really bizarre because actually they got offered less on the cash out than they would have got just back in Ross County. Anyway, no more betting talk. This is interesting from a Liverpool perspective. We play into narratives. I feel like this is probably more a point that Liverpool have hit this game and it's one too many in terms of getting away with it, of giving the opposition a 1-goal advantage. 21 times they've conceded the first goal this season. Yeah. You can't keep getting away with it. No. By a long distance, have won the most points in the Premier League. That what I've told you, first goal is all competitions, by the way, conceding first. But it's still a lot. It's nearly half their games are conceding the first goal, right? And this is Liverpool. I think it's 26 points they've got from losing positions in the Premier League this season.
They're top, are they?
So it's not that far off a point per game, is it? Like, how many times can you keep doing that? And I just think this was the one where it run unlucky, because there's a fine line between Palace were great defensive, and then you look you look at Liverpool's XG and a big chance, and you go, okay. On a different day, Liverpool just score a couple, and it's just another one to add to the list where you go. And that's not to say Palace defended badly, by the way. There was some heroic performances and some heroic blocks back there. Anderson, Klein and Mitchell, always some big individual moments particularly. But on a different day, Liverpool scored the goals. And
a sitter as well.
Yeah, the Jones 1-on-1. I mean, the Mitchell block for Salah. Salah doesn't even know he's coming. He just thinks he scored from like 6 yards.
Diaz, like, acrobatic kick.
A Nunes effort, which Henderson is a goalkeeper I've been pretty critical of, but made some good saves in the game. It's okay to say there was some good individual excellence from Palace, and say they defended well as a team, and also acknowledge that on a different day Liverpool would have won 2 or 3-1, and it is what it is. And that's not to say Palace didn't deserve the victory, because they had some big chances themselves. It's just a little bit of a fluke actually that Liverpool haven't scored themselves in this fixture. And Palace did have big moments. Mateta's not scored in the game, particularly. I didn't think Elise would start. He did. Clayton is laughing at the fact that I don't know if we've got poltergeist in here or if it's really bloody windy outside.
Ghost in the studio.
Nico looks so frightened he's just gone to a permanent stand-up position now. There was plenty of Palace to consider this week, and it's a brilliant result for them, and they, like Brentford, are safe now. You'll get similar odds on Brentford or Palace getting relegated now to the Palace and Villa double this weekend. Actually, Clays, they're safe. They're pretty much near enough confirmed with them victories.
New manager's done brilliant.
People kept saying it's only their second win under Glasner, and I think they got a really good manager there. Really good. I think they've landed really well there, Palace, and I wouldn't be surprised if they keep hold of their players, which they might not be able to, because I think they're possibly one of those that's going to be under a bit of financial restriction. But if they do, they really should actually, if they can keep players fit, push for top half next year. Yeah. Because that, with Eze and Elise in the team, is excellent. And they have bought an absolute gem in midfield in Adam Wharton.
Yeah. He was really highly rated anyway,
will not be long at all before people are talking about him leaving Palace. I mean that. Yeah. Really good. Expect him in the England squad in August or September. Yeah. Probably a bit late now for this one, but expect him after the tournament. If he starts next season well, to be getting looked at pretty quickly, I imagine. Really intelligent footballer, really good. Good business from them getting him in. Wharton you won't be looking at for FPL. Eze, as I've said, is a certainty for me. My massive concern with Elise is it's Sunday against West Ham, it's Wednesday against Newcastle, and then it's Saturday against Fulham.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play all 3.
No. Well, he'll feature in all of them.
Sorry, I don't think he'll start all 3.
That for a player whose expected goal involvement this season is really good for his minutes, that could still be enough to consider him. And it might land lucky enough that he plays the 2 home games and then doesn't start at Fulham.
Yeah.
Could be. Now, for 3 years, that's the perfect scenario. So at least I'm going to have a big think about. But I'm also not sure. We talked about forwards during this podcast. I mean, probably get with it now, James, and consider Mateta.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have scored even at this.
Yeah, he should have had another, to be fair.
And actually, he's obviously had the one that's kind of saved from 6 yards. He beats Alisson on a 1v1.
Yep.
And Robertson obviously makes a heroic clearance off the line.
Just smacks
and
it
obviously, last weekend, he's had a one-on-one and finished it brilliantly against City as well. So he's now getting in the big moments and looking like he's got the confidence to finish. Yeah. Manager's changed something in him. And I think it will be an easy one this week to look at and go, well, I can't afford to go Darwin Núñez as one of my forwards rather than Mateta, and just look at it and go, it's 2 home games.
Okay, so if price is
confidence would be high.
If price is no issue.
Price is not an issue for free hits this week.
So, with that in mind, who would you go, Darwin or Mateta?
I think Mateta.
Yeah?
But I also know I can have another Liverpool player. I think what might influence that as well is if you don't go Darwin, if you're on free hit this week and you don't go Darwin, you start thinking, well, what second Liverpool attacker am I going for, assuming Mo Salah is one? Now, Diaz you can obviously go for. Jota, back fit. Yeah. I don't think people go for Gakpo.
McAllister, you know.
Well, McAllister will probably have the minutes, yeah. He probably will.
It's a little bit more boring,
I wouldn't be surprised, though. Here's the big thing with Liverpool. It's like saying, which is the best free Liverpool? Let me tell you after they play Atalanta Thursday night, because we don't know what they're going to do. Do they go rotated team, or do they put the strong team out and go for it? And by the way, if any team is capable of overturning that,
it's them. Of course it is.
It's them. They'll go for it. And you could imagine they'd go there to get an early goal, and your opponent might buckle. Now, anyone who watched the first leg will probably tell you that's probably not going to happen. And I agree. I expect Liverpool to go out. It's more the
capability of Liverpool, though, right?
It's not impossible.
Yeah.
And if they end up, is it impossible? They went to Atalanta. I'd seen they beat 5-0 in Champions League away from home, by the way, a couple of years ago. Admittedly, not in front of a crowd, I don't think, from memory. Is it impossible that Liverpool go to Atalanta and win 3-0 or 4-1 and the game goes to extra time and stuff? No. And then you've got a couple of players then are playing 120 minutes, and then you're going to ask them to play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday lunchtime.
This is a week of just information.
You couldn't buy a Liverpool player now.
No.
Like if you're sitting there now, I've got to buy a Liverpool player now. Please wait.
Yeah.
Please wait. If you want to go and buy Eze now, crack on. Like I can't give you a reason not to. You should be fine. But if you actually are buying a Liverpool player with a free transfer this week, I would seriously recommend waiting beyond Thursday night, because it's little things like Jota having perhaps another cameo. I think, right, I've then got him start at Fulham, and then Everton's the bonus maybe, and I know I'll get at least another half hour, but I could get another start. Also, as well, though, most of the guys are probably going to start one and maybe not start the other. So what's the expected minutes on that? It's not going to be far off a single game week for some of these players.
Yeah, true.
So bear that in mind. Now, of course, you're going to go with 3. Again, I think for me, if Trent doesn't start on Thursday, I'm very keen. Very keen. I could go Trent and Van Dijk because it looks so good defensively. I might do, though. Honestly, if I look at Jota, Núñez, Gakpo, Diaz, and I'm like, I ain't got a clue here. And I'm looking at Trent, Van Dijk, and Salah and thinking they all play age-wise. That might be what I go.
This is where I still think I would be Trent, Salah, Darwin. I don't want double Liverpool defence.
What won't help is if Darwin don't start on, because it goes the other way. If Núñez doesn't start against Atalanta, I think, but I also think his form's been kind of hit and miss. Would it even be impossible to say he didn't start at all?
Oh, it's not impossible at all.
Particularly if you started at Atalanta and then you just went, right, Jota could play one and Gakpo could play one.
Yeah.
And they used Núñez as what he's often looked best at, is the impact substitute.
I think Thursday will give a lot of information. Like the availability, fatigue that comes out of that game. It will almost, I think, pick the team for the weekend itself in a weird way.
And if it goes really, really bad and you really don't know what to do with your Liverpool players this week, just get Alisson. Because he's back in goal.
Yeah.
And like Onana and Vicario, he probably will have to make saves. I'll add, I don't think Liverpool will win both games in 34.
Yeah, neither do I. I can see Liverpool dropping points again.
I don't know which one, but I think they'll drop points in one of them.
Mine is more in either Fulham, Everton, or West Ham. I see them dropping points in one of them. Not sure which one.
Yeah, I think fair throw in the West Ham game as well. Maybe. West Ham will have had a clear week before that. Will be helpful for them. Particularly if Bowen's back, we don't know the info. But yeah, I think key point on Liverpool is wait. I think on Palace, free hitters will consider Henderson. I think Mitchell is kind of rivaling Daniel Munoz now as a potential option. There's no reason to think those guys won't play twice. If you wanted to go for one of the centre-backs, that's clearly going to be Joachim Anderson at the moment, who certainly always is a threat from set plays. And then it's the front three, Eze, Elise, Mateta. So if I think about it and I go, right, I'm definitely going treble Palace. It's basically probably for me, it's going to be one defensive, Eze, and then it's Elise or Mateta, I think. One or the other. I think I'd want to shoot myself if I only went 2, which when I reflect on me actually saying that out loud is also stupid. It's still Crystal Palace playing against 2 teams that are above them in the league. But I think there'll be, let's remember as well, when they got themselves safe, and I realised it was kind of uplift of Hodgson coming in, but Hodgson came in, they beat Leicester, they had that mad win at Leeds, and they were really good for a little while, and went on a little run. They'll know they're safe now, I think. And you might get them play with more freedom. And they have been playing with more freedom anyway. They play with a lot more energy. I can't see how free hitters don't have Eze. And you'd make a case to, if you're running through, that might be the one to buy in anyway. Yeah.
Fair play. A couple more games to go. West Ham 0, Fulham 2. Andreas Pereira, that's a fantasy throwback from last season.
Yeah, it's finally come from he's obviously been playing this more advanced role again since game week 26, and actually you'd make a case, I don't know if the underlying have been suggesting it, but it's felt like this return was probably coming, not that anybody would have or should have bought him, because the bloke up front's been the one banging in all the goals since James went and bought him, and then had 3 2-pointers in a row basically. Yeah, there you go. He could have returned in this one as well, is what it is. And he's still a reason, particularly those without chips. Munez is perfectly reasonable to keep as your third forward to run through if you're shorter stuff. If you've got a bench boost though, you'd look at things like Munez to Mateta this week, and that might be the clincher that pushes you to do it, right? That works affordably. Otherwise, you're probably not looking at Fulham. I realise there'll be some burnt Leno owners out there who have got another nice return this week. There might be a few holding on to Anthony Robinson. It is worth saying their 35, 36 and 38 fixtures are okay. So again, if you're short of chips, I think holding on to these players is not too bad at all. If you want to bench boost 37, you're not going to do that when they play Man City. So ultimately, that might decide what you do then. You're not going to invest in them though, despite the good result.
No.
It's interesting that we've mentioned a few times, on the beach maybe. You can see Marco Silva's reaction to the goals and stuff, that they were quite up for this actually. It's only their 3rd away win all season. And if Sudge was sitting there, I think he'd tell you that he's not surprised. They went through the ringer Thursday night, West Ham, in Leverkusen, the work they had to put into that. And then there's the mental of, Fulham at home in between that second leg of Leverkusen. They know they've got to go again against that. And it's worth bearing that in mind again to go back to Palace, that West Ham go to Palace on Sunday. Now, the Leverkusen game if Leverkusen score early, it's finished, basically.
Done early,
and it might be that they don't exert themselves in quite the same way. And West Ham do still need results in the league to try and get into Europe. And they've definitely still got a chance of doing that. The way it's worked out over the last week, I guess probably 8th is looking less likely for Conference League. Probably will be 7th. 6th will be Europa League. That's highly likely. Well, in fact, that's definite now. Liverpool won the Carabao, isn't it? So still plenty for West Ham to play for, and this was a missed opportunity, but they've been well beat here. They've been well beat. I've got them bottom of my ticker for the rest of the season.
Wow. Okay.
So I think they'll struggle to hit that European spot from here.
So there'll be people that still own Bowen, Kudus, and stuff. Would you advise to sell
them?
I
would imagine Bowen will be gone for people already. Yeah. I would be surprised if there's many, if any, listening or watching this who have still got him.
Okay.
And I think anything else you've got, you probably
get rid.
Being in Areola is obviously different. That might sit as your sub keeper and stuff. There's not many weeks left you're even going to want to play it. So I think West Ham you would rule out from future use. What you can do? 1 week punt at the end. Who they got? A Man City away. Like no. That's a definitive bin. And in seriousness, I can't see people looking at Fulham anymore. Fulham also will still think they've got an outside shot of potential European football as well, but probably need to beat Liverpool at the weekend to have a chance of it. Don't be too shocked if they do. Yeah. They'll play a strong team, and they have the players in transition that can hurt Liverpool. I'm not saying I think Fulham will beat Liverpool. I'm saying don't be surprised if it happens.
Yeah.
Also, on Liverpool, probably should have said this as well. But there have been periods, I think, in sort of the December-January period last year, and admittedly this is later in the season, and also the December-January period of the COVID season, where one bad result did spiral into a few others.
Do you think that's a possibility here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it will.
No, but it's a possibility, right? Not definitively.
But yes, I'm sure Everton fans will be like, shut up, James. They'll definitely beat us next week, and I get that. Fulham will have definite confidence of causing them some trouble on Sunday. And again, I'm probably still going to captain Mo Salah this week, but I think we might end next week and they will have dropped some more points, I think, somewhere, including the West Ham game. I agree. They'll beat that West Ham, though. If West Ham turn up with attitude, they won't have a problem.
Right, that's a wrap. No more games to cover. Off we trot.
That's not quite.
The final game.
Everyone wants to know if I watched the game. No, I didn't. I would tell you honestly, truthfully, I was looking through some of the teams from Saturday and stuff, and I was flicking through SofaScore now and again, and I just happened to see it come up that Villa scored. And I just went, oh, wow. Because I was following the chat in Slack as well, and a few people were saying, I tell you what, Villa might it got to the point where Arsenal were going to throw it, as in going to have to throw more bodies. Villa might get this at the end. And that's what happened. So, look, I've not watched the game. I've only watched a little bit on Match of the Day. So, floor is yours, mate.
Yeah, Arsenal 0, Aston Villa 2. Start with Villa, to be fair. So, yeah, I've always said this about...
You've done that same shit I do when I want to have a whinge about my team. Let me talk about the opposition first.
No, do you know, it's a conscious thing.
Before I forget.
No, do you know why? It's because for years I used to hear like people talk about Arsenal when we'd win, and it was never about Arsenal. It was always about the opposition. So I don't want to be that guy. I want to give Villa their flowers. They deserve the win. And I've said this about Emery, like in individual games, he is a top tactician. Like not just individual, he's obviously doing brilliant with Villa, and I don't know what will happen in the race for fourth, but they have a great chance.
Can I jump in and tell you?
Well, I know what you're going to say.
No, what I will say is if they beat Bournemouth on Saturday, they will finish fourth.
There's still a long way to go.
No, definitely.
What's the points gap?
They'll be 6 points clear of us if they win on Saturday.
We'll see.
And we've got games in hand against Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City. It's finished if they win Saturday.
Possibly. But, Emery, he's a top tactician. And to be fair, obviously I was annoyed that we lost, but I'm quite happy for him with how he's doing at Villa, because it was a shame how it kind of panned out at Arsenal. Got a lot of respect for him. But Villa, tactically, they were brave. They did to Arsenal what I've not seen many teams do when they come to the Emirates. And there was another team that did this. Well, I think it was Luton, maybe. They put two people high up on the centre-backs. But they also had Rodgers. He kept staying high up as well. And it gave Arsenal a bit of a dilemma, to be honest, in terms of Arsenal aggressively go and look to suffocate. And they'll just back people to channel the ball into wide areas and kick it long. And Arsenal will back themselves to win the 1v1s. It gave Arsenal a problem, and there were a couple of times where Villa, once they got out from the back, they would go direct, and Watkins would win the ball, Rodgers would win the ball, and there were a couple of times where Arsenal looked vulnerable, and it's 2 games in a row.
So there was. I was just going to say, there was plenty of clips last night that were highlighting they'd basically left 4 up against your back 4.
That's basically what I'm trying to get to, but I didn't word it as well as...
That's right.
Yeah.
No, what I was going to say is we might do similar.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It basically turned into Arsenal kind of emptied the midfield in a weird way. So when Arsenal were looking to press Villa, it was very much man-to-man, except Odegaard. He does that thing where he kind of shepherds space, would channel it to the left. And then it was literally, there was a gap.
Just got an image now of Odegaard herding sheep.
You can see it, can't you?
No.
Okay, I can. My shepherd. But yeah, and like Rice would go aggressive. And then it was literally Zaniolo, Rodgers, Watkins, and then sometimes the RB literally pinned, and it gave Arsenal a challenge. And like, don't get me wrong, in the first half, as good as Villa were with their mid block and nullifying Arsenal's ability to play within the lines, Arsenal did have a couple of good half chances that we should have put away, didn't.
The Trossard one, the main one. Great save by Martinez, by the way.
Great save as well, but I'm like, Trossard, there's a whole bloody
net
on the
know.
left of you.
No, but Martinez does intentionally stick his foot out for
100%. it. But that must be said, that obviously came a few seconds after Ollie Watkins had just hit the post, right? So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Didn't just hit the post though, did he?
It hit the post and just skipped the other side.
If you said try 1,000 times to hit the inside of one post and then put it out for a goal kick of the other post, all within like basically the 6-yard box, I'd tell you try 1,000 times, you couldn't do it.
That chance came from a mistake, Gabriel hitting the back of Zinchenko. But as much as Villa were good in their tactical structure, it was more in the second half I saw them coming into their own. In the first half, personally, if I'm being completely honest, I went into half-time thinking if we repeat the first half, we'll create enough chances to win the game, if I'm being completely honest.
Glad you said that, because I was going to tell you said that if you didn't.
Yeah, no, I did. I'll always be honest with it. I went into half-time thinking we got into good positions. Trossard, that was a good chance that we created. There was a move on quite a lot where Arsenal would get the ball in the kind of first phase, and Havertz would make a really clever run in between the fullback and the centre-back. And one time he was offside. A couple of times he got the ball, didn't quite get it under control. But Diego Carlos, great performance. His recovery pace.
Yeah, I've seen clips of that last night as well. What's really interesting about that is the Villa guys on Thursday night after they beat Lille were like, wow, he was shaky as hell.
Oh, really?
Carlos, yeah.
But his recovery pace was brilliant. And to be honest, that was the only real time that was the thing I was like, I really think if we can keep getting there, we'll get a chance. And I don't know what happened in the second half. It was, again, it's a combination of Villa just grew into it, and I think I hate using cliches, I really do, but it genuinely looked like they were wanting it more. They were outrunning us, they were outfighting us, and then with that, the confidence came. Arsenal lost the ability to play within the lines. I think we got worse through the substitutions, which were touted like fatigue and not injury, but knocks and stuff. But the substitutions made us worse. And it got to, I remember so clearly looking at the clock, it was the 75th minute. And I said to my friend, we're not scoring. And then, as you touched on, I think the guys in Slack were saying the way it's going, Arsenal commit. And then bang, they pounce. And Bailey obviously put them 1-0 up with a really good finish, actually, I thought. I
did sell Leon Bailey, just for clarity, this week as well. I didn't do that to try and jinx Arsenal, but now you've mentioned it, I did think, and obviously I would have, had I not bought Bumo, I would have fluked Bailey's bench points. I mean, literally, he didn't even start. This is where you can get mixed up between outcome and decision.
Yeah, but really good finish. I thought it was a tighter angle than he made it look, to be fair. And then, obviously, Ollie Watkins, it was just bang, bang, sucker punch, good night.
That's a beautiful finish from Watkins for the second goal.
Great finish, and what a season he's having. And, Villa deserved it. It's a, frustrating one.
I think, from the FPL perspective on Villa, I don't hate if people want to go Watkins this week. And those who've been holding...
said there's a conversation about him over Haaland, right?
Yeah, I think I would more likely go Watkins over Haaland. Personally, it's just Villa at home and the requirement. Also, you've also, and this is a key point, we should have said this as well, for Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea, and I know, to be honest, some Manchester United players will appeal with playing Sheffield United this week as well. Garnacho maybe less so now, but some people, all these midfielders getting ready I'll go Bruno Fernandes. Like, I can see some people doing that. I wouldn't. Just bear in mind they've got to play their FA Cup semi-final before the fixture. And I've said this is the one reason I don't particularly like bench boosts this week, personally, is if you're carrying these single game week players who could get injured at the weekend before they play their midweek game. It scares me. Yeah. I see people bench boosting, particularly with the likes of Garnacho this week, and I understand it, but it would also scare me. So there's that for Watkins over Haaland as well, that Haaland's not going to... that said, I don't think Haaland will play against Chelsea. I don't think he'll start anyway in the Cup semi. So that one's a little bit different. But Watkins for home game, the form he's in. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what a season he's
Why not?
Absolutely
brilliant.
Mind-boggling.
Brilliant. I'm not recommending anyone buys him, obviously. But for free hitters, I don't hate it. For those who own, probably think, I'm going to get it and I'm going to go to Núñez. Probably what they were thinking, might be thinking twice about it. That might not be your priority to change. I think for Villa as well, they've obviously now beaten you home and away.
Yeah.
They've beaten Manchester City at home, the one at Tottenham. So in terms of teams in and around them, they've won some big games this year. If they finish fourth, they thoroughly deserve it.
100%.
And I fully expect them to do so now. And I'm going to be really honest with everyone. When Villa scored, my first thought wasn't, oh, fuck, my Champions League place has gone. You and I know, you had a discussion with me Friday and I told you, it just doesn't feel like that big of a deal to Tottenham. We might even benefit from being fifth in the longer term. Although fifth could still be Champions League. For those wondering, in terms of the coefficient, it's roughly about a 56, 57% chance that fifth will still be enough for a Champions League place. That might be dependent on what your team does, ironically, on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Hope you get beat again.
Thanks, mate.
Right. Which Arsenal players do you think will play twice in the double? Considering, important, Bayern Wednesday, Wolves Saturday, Chelsea Tuesday.
Well, this is where I don't know yet, because Wednesday could go to extra time. And
So same as Liverpool, right?
It's basically the same. Like if I can do it based on assumption. So if Arsenal just play 90 minutes on Wednesday, the players I think will play both games, fantasy relevant ones, right? Odegaard, the centre backs, Ben White, and Saka. I think will start both games.
Declan Rice might be relevant for a few.
True. Yeah, I think he'll start both games.
Okay. I would assume that would be the case.
Did I say Havertz? I didn't.
I saw you didn't predict him to start this weekend.
Yeah, I got it wrong.
But I guess you're thinking therefore would be, and because if you take one step backwards, it's not just Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. It's Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Havertz has played yesterday. So if he starts in Munich, is he going to start both in the double?
Well, the information is telling me he won't start somewhere, but the evidence is telling me otherwise. He's starting every game, and it's I didn't predict Ben White to start on the weekend either, because I'm just like, surely that will come somewhere. But he got an early sub yesterday, so I think this is the other thing I've said about Arteta. I think he'll try to maximise the energy levels through the 5 subs and manage it that way. So my opinion looks like it's completely wrong, and I think he'll continue going with the strongest team available to him each game, and then worry about the knock-on impact after.
Wolves is a dangerous game Saturday, because they've been good in some of the bigger games, and actually that also applies to Chelsea.
I don't see there being mass rotation against Wolves, unless obviously.
No, I'm not
forced.
talking about mass rotation, but what I mean is I think we could see clear things that, like, if Martinelli doesn't start on Wednesday night, he probably is going to start at Wolves, for example. But then that doesn't mean he's going to start against Chelsea. The Rice, Odegaards, the centre-backs, the goalkeeper, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's improbable that Ben White might miss one, and you said that previously.
Yeah, again, I've been saying it, but it's not happened, right? So,
and it's difficult to foresee Odegaard or Saka ever being left out.
No. Yeah.
So I think for me, based on how you defended yesterday, if Wednesday goes badly, from a psychological perspective, then I think the right play would probably be Saka and Odegaard plus 1 defensive rather than 2 defensive for me on free hit.
Yeah, I can't argue it, to be honest. On free hit, I'd probably go the same, and obviously I've been the biggest advocate for Arsenal defence all season. So
then that's Saka, Odegaard, Salah, Eze. It's definitely 5 in midfield for me, isn't it? Yeah. It's just the choice of one more. So yeah.
Fair play.
Okay.
Hour and 43. Should we get a couple?
Who do you think will win the title? Oh my God.
Who do I think will win the title? Unfortunately, I do think Man City will, but I don't think it's definitively done. I think there's a chance City can drop points in one game. Problem is, I think Liverpool and Arsenal will drop points in games too.
If you and Liverpool both go out, I mean, it doesn't necessarily make it better for City winning the league, but just like that, an absolutely disastrous 10 days for Arsenal and Liverpool by virtue of going out of Europe and losing 1 home league game. By the way, to give you a little bit of credit, and Liverpool as well, and this does include City, in 2024, across the 3 teams, before yesterday, there'd only been 1 defeat, and that defeat was by Liverpool at Arsenal.
Standard is insane.
So I remember before you played Liverpool, and you had someone else around that point as well. It might have even been the West Ham game afterwards, when you obviously really kicked on with the amount of goals you scored. We said then, like, before you played Liverpool, you could not lose. Yeah. You had to win. And actually, it's the way it's worked out that you did have to win then. And it feels like you probably still need to win everything left now. Yeah. Once you get in a position where City can afford to lose a football match,
it's game over, I think.
At this stage, it probably is. It's not a certainty City win at Brighton. And there is a scenario where the City-Tottenham game can obviously be a challenge for them. But my team, despite everything I said earlier, will also be a challenge for yourselves and also be a challenge for Liverpool in 36. So to contradict everything that I said earlier about us being a bit shy individually at Newcastle, if you have a deeper look, actually, our XG per game, I think, against the better teams is actually better than weaker teams. I haven't broke that down particularly. I might have a proper look at that versus top 6, middle 8 or something, and bottom 6, however that works out.
Lovely stuff.
But actually our XG in some of the bigger games, you're surprisingly is good, and bear that in mind. And that's also why, despite the fact he's doing my head in a bit at the moment, I can't see me not going with Sonny on that wild card. Just one more thing before questions, because I think Everton is a little bit relevant. Obviously play at Chelsea tonight. Pickford is a reasonable get. Brentford, obviously, for the financials. Otherwise, wouldn't bother. You're not going Chelsea this week.
Do you want to talk through the schedule for the week before we get in with the questions?
COTC tomorrow, Wolves versus Bournemouth with Bradley Parker and Neil Grover. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football Podcast with FPL Failure and FF Thinker. Going to do a three-way because...
Enjoy, boys.
Yes. It's my only chance to get in one, basically. Ask James Thursday, 12 o'clock live stream audio afterwards. Clash of Correspondence for you Friday as well. Merseyside derby, Everton versus Liverpool with Sean Norton and Dan Lord. That will be out later than usual. It will be late afternoon / early evening because we ain't even recording until about 2:30 on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. As I said earlier, Harry Daniels, FPL Harry's joining me today for Tottenham Chelsea. Tomorrow, UCL Fantasy, quarterfinal second leg preview. Wednesday, Q&A. David Hunter's hosting that. Victor Sundell's hosting a quiz on Scandinavian football for me on Thursday. And Game Week 34 preview on Friday, once we've got the Arsenal-Liverpool important information, essentially.
Happy days. You've covered most of the questions, lots around Spurs assets for the run-in, if Nunes is a worry, bench boost, etc., etc. So one that I don't think we covered, Jerry Dharma, J-Dharma963. Is there a case for captaining the likes of Eze ahead of Salah and Saka, with the former both having home games against teams with below-average defence? And that was more around captaincy. Free hit 34, right?
I'm not going to tell anyone not to captain him.
Okay.
It's double game week. Captain whoever you want, but I think Salah, Saka.
Yeah,
that order still yes.
Really? I don't know. You know, I think people will change their minds on it.
It's recency stuff, right? Yeah. Listen, particularly with Salah yesterday, and again to repeat, he didn't play well, and I don't think he has the last few weeks. But still had chances.
Yeah. I'm intending on captaining Salah, to be fair, but I reckon a lot will change their mind.
If Salah plays like 120 on Thursday, then there's a real conversation to be had about no. Yeah. But I think under that circumstance, I would still go Saka, I think.
Fair play. And then final question of the show, FPL 350. What do you think of Swedish meatballs on a scale of 1 to 10?
IKEA, especially.
They're unbelievable.
Is it IKEA these days?
Isn't it?
Changed everything, haven't they?
Is it not
No, but they changed everything recently, didn't they? They were like, for loads of things. There's the car as well, wasn't it? What's the name of the car? It would like...
I don't know.
Basically, us English don't speak English very well. They'd like suddenly told us after 50 years, like, you're not saying our words properly. Can you correct it, basically?
No, it's not IKEA. It's IKEA.
I think it's IKEA now, isn't it? Or something?
I apologise.
Yeah. It's all right. It's just... It just makes me think of Sven all the time.
Yeah. I love Swedish meatballs.
Shout out, Sven. There was someone else I wanted to give a shout out as well. Shit. I can't. No, it's not that. Shit, I can't remember, and I'm not going to remember. Sorry, go on.
To the person that should have got a shout out.
No, it's like a football person shout out.
Me, like what?
I don't know if it's someone who died or something. I don't know. Oh, right. The wife's calling me. End the podcast.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. James will be back with you later on. So stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, babes. Cue music, please, man, child. And
I'm off to Munich.
Oh, I missed it. She literally called me.